So now let's go ahead and take a look at the next sheet. And as I look at that, let's first take a look at our trays here, right? We want to be able to work with pages. Again, I have not shifted layers, okay? I already duplicated my layout one time. So here's A2, my third sheet in my set. This is kitchen elevations, right? Blank as before. And once again, we can reuse information. How should we reuse it? Well, here's what we could do. Let's go back to A1, right? I could literally just select everything, copy, and paste, right? I could also do this. I could select the layout, remove it, select the previous layout, and simply duplicate it, right? Now watch what happens. If I double click here, I'll call this one A2, and this would be kitchen elevations. And you probably are wondering, why'd you do that? Well, let me show you, right? Because we're gonna need the drawing title, and we have more than one, right? Well, here's a model view already. And as well, you can see I already have labels. So notice this. Let's grab the model view, pull it off to the side. Look how the dimensions are tied to the model view. That's the one thing that is connected to the model view, not the labels, right? No problem. Let's get rid of these guys, because I already have the style defined, right? And these guys, let's just pull them off to the side over here. We can come back for them. Let's grab the model view, drag it back in here, and let's imagine how we're going to do this layout. We have two views that we want to show. Let me show you the example here. Right? Here's the elevation, 1 and 2 for the kitchen. You can see we need to show a drawing title. We need to show dimensions, callouts, as well as text labels. Alright, so now that we've duplicated it, we can come back here and change our scene to one of the sections. Now, this is probably where you're wondering, right? When we were developing the scenes in the model, you're thinking, this doesn't look like an appropriate interior elevation. How am I going to present it? So here, you can see again, there's the model view boundaries. And of course, as I start to modify it, you can see how I'm cropping the model view, right? Now this happens to be what? Oh, that's a dimension. Get rid of that. Okay. So if we take a look here, you'll be able to see that we've got the boundaries of the floor, the adjacent wall there, and what would be the boundary of the ceiling. Now, here's one thing we could do. Of course, we could do this, right? Just bring it right to the contour of the room, yeah? And that's typically what's being shown for interior elevations. Now, again, with kitchen one section, notice that there's no interior dividing wall there, right? It just finishes. So let me show you what we could do with shapes, okay? So again, coming back to something like rectangle, right? Not a rounded rectangle, but just rectangle like this. Here's what we could do. Use it to trace the contour, okay? And don't worry about the stroke dimensions there or the fill right now, because this is what we'll be able to do. One, here's the shape that I want to define that as the interior elevation, right? Select the shape, go back to your default trays, take a look at your colors and your shape styles, right? Here's the stroke. That's the only thing that's on right now. Think about this. You're going to use two shapes. One shape to crop the view. The second shape to actually be the boundary outline, right? So first, let's just go ahead and set it to 1.5, let's say. Okay, and you have the stroke there. Now watch this. I'm going to use Control C, right? That's the only thing I have selected. You could do Control C or simply copy, right? I'll tell you why I didn't in just a second. Now I'm going to select both the model view and the shape, right click right over the shape and create a clipping mask. Now look at that, right? You can see it used the shape, it consumed the shape to crop the model view. So now when I paste, that shape is the frame. Click offside, and now you can see the contour of the room much more clearly, right? Now again, you can select it, go back to default view, and take a look at your stroke dimensions there. So you can make it paper thin if you like, right? That way you can highlight, this is finish, maybe you want to show the floor finish, but this is all you really need to show for the interior contour, right? So there's our completed model view. Now, if I select all of this, right click and take a look at my model view settings. Actually, let's double click, right? Because now it's a clipped view. Select the model, right click, take a look at scale. Did we do this correctly? Yeah, it's a 1/4 inch, right? But it should actually be a little bit bigger, right? A little bit more detailed. Let's set it to 1/2 inch. Oh boy, now look at our clipped view, right? So here's what we could do again. I'm going to delete the frame. I'll select the model view, right click, release the clipping mask, and now I can make it a little bit larger, right? And actually I may have to make the model view a little bit larger as well, right? There it goes. So 1/2 inch is pretty much what we want to use there. And again, let's select that graphic, resize it, okay, pull it down, something like this, and again, Control C, right? Control C to copy it. Shift to select both the graphic and the model view, right click, recreate the clipping mask, deselect everything, Control V to paste. There you go. So I think that was a good way to show you, to demonstrate how you can reuse views, you can release and remake clipping masks, right? So that would be kitchen section 1. Now I can use another graphic here, like a line to separate the two drawing views. And guess what? Let's come over here, update this, and I'll call this kitchen elevation 1. All right. Right, and this should be 1/2 inch. You got that. Now think about this, right? If I select everything, it's not only the masked or clipped viewport, but it's also the drawing title. Hit Control and drag, right? Use Shift to constrain. Okay, maybe we want to shift click this graphic right here so we can move it over. And now the only thing we need to do is double click here, select the actual drawing view, right click, and change it to the second kitchen elevation, right? Now again, you need to update your boundary, right? Your graphic here. So if I double click, you can see the separation. Here's the graphic, right? I can resize it to show only the extent of the contour. Now here, oops, that was the wrong thing. Let me undo that. Now here you can see where we have, there's a window, right? There's a window there. So what we might want to do, and what's typical sometimes, is when you have openings, you follow the contour of the opening to highlight it. Because this way, if I were to clip away where the window is, I wouldn't know that there's a window there, right? So in this case, we might want to just simply recreate our, maybe just expand this and expand this one here too. And you can see what I mean here. Right? See, this is an actually larger section, right? So let's make a little bit more room. Let's push it over to the left. Right? Let's push it all to the left. Didn't want to do that. I want to select all of it there, push it all to the left. There we go. Maybe that'll work so far, okay? Then we'll go use a pencil. So starting over here where you see the window, right? What you want to do is follow the contour. So notice this would be the finish right here, right? If we wanted to show that, we would be following the stud wall. Follow it on the outside of that window to the stud wall, bring it down to the rough floor, right? Bring it all the way to the next stud wall. Follow that contour to the rough ceiling and bring it back again. Okay, now that's my closed loop. And if I reselect it, right, what do we want to do here? Oops, getting excited. Okay, select it, Control C to copy it. And before I paste it down again, I'm going to reselect the graphic and the viewport, right click, create a clipping mask, deselect, Control V to paste. Now you can clearly see the contour, right? You can clearly see there's a window right there in that room, in that location, and this is the extent of the room as we follow the contour of the next wall. Now, the only thing we have to do here for our title is just double click and change our drawing number. Make sure you zoom in there, don't get lazy. And there we go. Okay, so all we need here are some dimensions, labels, and callouts. So I've already showed you how to use those labels, right? Now you'll notice that we already have some right here. So we could actually just take one, just copy it, and paste it. We want to highlight here the refrigerator, the, what else? Dishwasher. So you just want to put it right in front. Just annotate it like that. And notice how big that text block is. And here's what I'll do is I'll come back to my text style. And remember, use this button right here. So it's bounded or unbounded rather. Okay. And then we could just copy that again, Control and then drag. Use Shift to constrain, double click there, and we'll just make that a dishwasher, right? Okay, now you could do the rest. And again, when we're talking about dimensions, remember we already created the dimension style, and the one thing we wanted to make sure is before we put it down, and as long as we don't change it, is this auto scale, right? So here, again, just coming close to the model view, snap to the model elements, and look at that, right? Shows you the exact size as a model. Okay, so you'll do that, you'll show the dimensions, pay attention to the example, and then one last thing here. With the label callouts, again, first time that we use it, right? Select it, go to the tray, and here, all we're looking at is text style. Notice that the default is Verdena, right? So again, you can select your Swiss or whatever else you're going to use. Okay, you can see it's in italics, but we could just make it bold or Roman, and it should be the same style. Now, here's what we could do, guys. You can also use the style dropper, right? If I click on that, you'll notice now, right? It took up the properties of that particular text style. And as I continue now with label, and say here with labels you want to identify or highlight all the key features. So for example, you might want to highlight the countertop, right? So this might be granite countertop or laminate countertop, whatever it is. Okay. Now if you wanted to create splined leaders, here's what you could do. Let's say we're going to highlight here the tiled backsplash. So first click, then your second click, hold and drag. You can see there's the Bezier curve. So click, hold, and drag, and then let go, and that creates a splined leader, right? So this would be tiled backsplash. All right, so think about what you want to highlight. This is what you're doing with these callouts. Make sure you have all the necessary information. And if you did copy paste, make sure you remove any extraneous information. All right? So that's our A2 kitchen elevations. The next thing we want to do is take a look at our kitchen perspective view, right? And all we want to do now is just use a simple drawing view. So let's go ahead and go on to the next one.